Hey everybody, and welcome to the fifth and final day of Windies 2012, the show where I recount the best and worst that 2012 had to offer in the world of indie gaming. Today I'm finally going to announce my pick for my favorite indie game of the past 12 months, so without further ado, let's get started. Looking back, 2012 had a lot of great games that certainly deserve consideration for the honor of my favorite indie title of the year. After much deliberation, my shortlist of candidates for the award boiled down to a trio of candidates from a very strong year on the Xbox Live Arcade, and that's Fez, Spelunky, and Mark of the Ninja, as well as two games that I played religiously on the PC later this fall, FTL and Natural Selection 2. To be quite honest, any of these games is completely deserving of the title, and each of them warrants some attention to close out the series. Although it may not appear so at first glance, Fez is actually one of the most sprawling, engrossing, and completely bewildering games I've played in my entire life. What at first looks like a cute, albeit gimmicky platformer involving merely rotating your perspective to collect golden cubes, quickly evolves into something much more cryptic and unique. It's unfortunate that it's difficult to describe what makes the game so bewitching without spoiling some of the experience, but trust me when I say that Fez is a game where you get back what you put in, and if you're willing to tumble down the rabbit hole as deep as it goes, this is a game that is likely to stick with you for quite some time. Vancouver-based Klei Entertainment had a huge year in 2012, releasing 3 games including Shank 2, Don't Starve's Early Access Beta, and their clear triumph for the year, Mark of the Ninja. This is a game that seemed to come entirely out of nowhere, and it blew everyone who played it completely away. The main strength of the game boils down to its core design philosophy. Rather than relying on trial and error and opaque enemy AI like a lot of other stealth games, Mark of the Ninja makes every game mechanic completely transparent and reliably executable. Enemies have lines of sight that are clearly visible, every noise radiates a circle indicating how far it can be heard, and environmental objects relevant to the gameplay can be locked onto, basically meaning that every room is a puzzle with clearly defined elements for you to play around with. And you can do so in a multitude of meaningfully different ways thanks to the variety of equipment at your disposal. This includes weapons, distraction items like noisemakers, and other absurd tools like jars of angry flesh-eating insects. Overall, Mark of the Ninja is an extremely tight and replayable game that made me fall in love with the stealth genre again after a long absence. There's not much to say about the Xbox 360 version of Spelunky that I haven't said already in the 70+ episodes of gameplay I've uploaded on this channel, but let's quickly summarize what makes this game so goddamn addictive that I can't put it down despite having all but one of my lifetime runs end in my death. Simply put, although Spelunky may be an unbelievably punishing game, it always feels like that punishment is deserved by the player. It's extremely rare to find situations where your death is a result of the game simply being unfair. Rather, the vast majority of my failings have come from brief moments of inattentiveness in otherwise patient and deliberative runs. And if there's one thing that Spelunky punishes above all else, it's not paying close attention to the world around you. Yes, its roguelike elements and procedurally generated levels help pad the game's replayability, but the heart of what makes Spelunky so addictive is that pervasive belief that if you could just avoid making that one stupid, silly mistake, you could actually beat the game. So far, there's not much in my experience that validates that feeling, but the fact that dying in Spelunky simply makes me want to play the game more is enough to make it one of my favorite games of the year. Natural Selection 2 was, to put it elegantly, the defining multiplayer experience for me in 2012. Although I was originally intimidated by the substantial learning curve and sheer time investment necessary to learn the basics of this asymmetrical humans versus aliens first-person shooter / real-time strategy game, once I got over that initial hump of not understanding what was going on, I found an unbelievably strategic core that requires a degree of cooperation and teamwork that I have never seen in a game before. In a lot of online multiplayer games, it's a rarity to hear anyone use voice chat for anything beyond trash talk or maybe dropping an expletive when they die. In Natural Selection 2, it's an absolute necessity to constantly communicate things like enemy positions and open resource points, as well as to coordinate the kinds of tactical assaults necessary to take down enemy structures and eventually win the game. As a result, even though the game can sometimes be frustrating, you always feel like a worthwhile cog in a purposeful machine, rather than just some nut wandering around on his own with an assault rifle. As a result, Natural Selection 2's multiplayer grabbed me hard and always kept me focused and in suspense, which is a real rarity for me these days. In the end, though, my choice for Indie Game of the Year has to go to FTL. No other game this year engrossed me as immediately or as relentlessly as this spaceship management / strategy game that throws you into a cold and unforgiving universe where resources are scarce and enemies are all too abundant. I'm a sucker for games with roguelike elements, and FTL's system of random encounters and loot make it so that every single run is a little bit different from the one, or, to be more honest, the dozen that preceded it. Beyond that, as with Spelunky, I had some of the most fun with FTL when things start going horribly wrong. trying to make your way through a hostile sector with a skeleton crew, or frantically micromanaging your workers to put out a fire, fight off intruders, and man battle stations is stressful, but also oftentimes hilarious, as your meager resources slowly get stretched too thin and eventually prove unable to stave off the inevitable. Overall, FTL is not only one of the year's most surprising success stories, it's also my pick for favorite indie game of 2012. And with that, that's gonna do it. Thanks for joining me for this year's Windies series, guys. Whether you agree or disagree with me, I hope you enjoyed the videos, and I look forward to bringing you another year of comprehensive indie gaming coverage in 2013. Thanks for making 2012 such an amazing year for me and the channel, and again, as always, thanks for watching.